I didn't know you had a background in jazz guitar. Is that something you've been doing for a while?
I went to college for music, and during we put those albums out. I didn't pay attention, but afterwards, I got back into it, and I played in Helmet. My friend Paige plays jazz, so we started doing he got me inspired to play more jazz.
That's awesome. I feel like when metal guitars pick up other genres, it makes them like a better player overall. And that's like with every instrument, I feel.
I think jazz is like America's classical music. It's one of the most complicated styles of music I've ever had to play. It's so hard to play. I'll never, in my lifetime, I'll never even come close to the masters who did it.
Well, that's why I love guitarists like Chris Poland as well.
Great.
Because a lot of that like fusion stuff is like really impressive.
He's amazing.
It's great meeting you, Tony. Thank you so much for being on the show here. I assume you're still in Stanford, right?
I mean, Stanford, Connecticut.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in Mass.
What part?
I'm in Holliston. It's like Central Mass. It's like 30 minutes north of Worcester.
I love it up there.
Yeah, yeah. I have family in Litchfield, so I'm in Connecticut quite a lot. But that's cool, man. I know Indestructible, what was it? Noise Command was also yeah, yeah.
And then the best metal band to come out of Connecticut, Faith Warning. We were friends, and luckily when Matt passed away, I called Joe from Faith to play with us.
And also, I believe there was a lot of like networking help in terms of like helping the band and stuff, which yeah, definitely. And I'd love to get into that. I'd love to get into some of the scene stuff because I'm in my 20s and I kind of missed out on the metal scene in Hartford back in the day.
Yeah, we're old men, as you can see from the gray face. and I had your hair, but now there's nothing under there.
Yeah, I'm holding on to it for now. But I'm just curious, what was that metal scene in Connecticut like back in the 80s? Was it mainly in Hartford, New Haven, all over New Haven? Bridgeport.
Yeah, those were like the main areas. The town we're from was not at all. It was like taboo.
Yeah, probably a couple like country cover bands, but
yeah, I mean, it's not very artsy around here. This town's always, like missed the mark. You know what I mean? Like they just never quite got what we were doing. It was always like when the paper would do like articles on us, they'd somehow insult us in the article.
Really, like how so? Like
just like thugs, whatever you want. Like it was never like positive. They never.
It was never a compliment.
We got our own record deals and gotten fans and toured. They never really talked about that. They just said it was like, you wouldn't want your daughters going to see these guys, that kind of stuff,
Yeah, it was like a warning in the paper. Yeah. I guess Connecticut wasn't ready at the time. And I'm just
here. We're in southern, we're right near New York. They weren't ready around here.
And I'm just curious, what influenced you to even get into guitar? Was it metal or did you discover metal later?
Jimi Hendrix.
Hendrix? Yeah, that makes sense.
I had an older sister, and she had Cream, Zeppelin, Hendrix, and I just fell in love with the guitar. I played accordion first. My parents were from Italy, so
yeah.
And then I heard Hendrix, and it was like, I want to be this guy.
When's the last time you played accordion? Have you dropped it? Yeah.
Yeah, I played for 2 years. Me and my cousin, who was the original drummer from Liege, we were terrible.
Well, there's no real good accordion music out there to influence,
Now, I kind of like it now when we had I grew up, my parents were Roman Catholics. I'm not religious by any means, but they'd always hire at a confirmationist accordion player. And now it's I wish I kept playing it.
It is a cool instrument. It's a really weird I can't imagine how to play it. I play a little guitar, but
I think Steve Vai played accordion too first.
Oh, did he?
I think so.
Well, I haven't seen any metal accordion crossovers yet, so we'll talk. Yeah. We'll talk about future material soon with the covers, Liege Lord in the back in the day. I know Judas Priest was a massive influence to you.
We're listed as like a Priest cover band, but
Yeah.
we did Maiden, UFO. I mean, like that whole genre just affected us. We started, playing all that stuff. So it was more like the whole, the new wave of British heavy metal just kicked in.
Yeah, you can totally hear that. Even the earliest demo, it's like, wow, this is totally like British new wave, you know.
Yeah, that was our thing, man. We loved that music. We searched for it. We drove hours to buy records, like that. We were obsessed with it.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say is like the metal album that like influenced you the most back in the day?
It's tough. Probably Stay in Class and Killers. Even though I love
Nice.
Killers was like, and I saw that tour because I'm like 100 years old. I saw Priest and Maiden, and that was like I stopped doing homework. Like that was like
Yeah, ruin your life.
it ruined my life.
That's amazing. So, the band played, you were talking about covers and stuff and how like pretty much starting as a cover band. What would you say like was your favorite song to play? I think it would say a lot about, the music you guys wrote going forward.
Probably Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it was so hard because we didn't have another guitar player, so we couldn't do the harmonies. But like it was so challenging to do that. So that would be my favorite.
And was that a song you did at like the Battle of the Bands? Because I'm pretty sure your Liege Lord formed in high school, right?
In high school.
Yeah.
We were Deceiver before, and we came in last at a battles. Like at my high school, we came in last place. They weren't ready for metal yet,
Yeah. Do you remember what kind of band won?
Like a Journey cover band.
Yeah.
Which I love that stuff too, but like we just took them by storm,
Yeah. It was like kind of a popularity contest of that because Journey, I feel like in the 80s, yeah, they were everything.
And like at that point, 83, 84, it wasn't like, it was, like I said, it was taboo to play that kind of music. Like, I'd wear a Killer shirt to high school and get called a devil worshiper. You know what I mean? It's like, they weren't ready for that stuff.
Yeah, I assume your parents were kind of pissed.
No, my parents were very supportive.
Cool.
My father was super supportive.
Well, since you said Roman Catholic, it's like, anything Catholic, you never know in the 80s with parents.
But like my father was a musician like back in Italy.
Oh, really?
He supported me and he told me to go to college, which he was right, so I could learn. So my mother, probably not so much, but my dad always had my back.
That's amazing. That's really great to hear, especially in like 83, because that stuff was like very with the whole, I think the Tipper Gore stuff came a little later, I think.
Probably. What year was that? 86, 87?
Yeah, I think 86, I think. But it was brewing. It was in the works for sure at that point.
Such stupid shit that the government gets involved in music. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but listen, it sold a lot of albums. I think Body Count went to like a million, for like selling like 10,000 units. They become platinum because of the controversies.
Dead Kennedys as well, famously with Frankenchrist. Yeah, and it's so funny to look at that now, and just be like, what the fuck?
What was great that Zappa went against them and like super genius to defend music, and they probably didn't even understand him because he's another one of my heroes. I love Frank Zappa.
Such an innovator. Like his stuff's so timeless, and his playing. He has these albums that's just him shredding, and it's like the best shit ever. It's like it like just makes your brain melt.
Steve Vai was in his band,
Yeah. Well, that's like two masters on a record. So we were talking about the forming in high school. How do you recall like the original lineup forming? Just like a friend group or?
Well, so I was in 8th grade. My cousin Frank went to like public high school. He met Matt. And I started playing with them, but I wasn't really like good enough, like it took me like another year to like get good enough to play all these songs. And that's how it started. It was just a love of music. We started jamming. I got better and I could keep up with my cousin and Matt. Matt was like the greatest bass player. I loved playing with him. It's just like he inspired me to be a better musician.
Yeah. How many years of playing did it take for you to join?
I'd say, like 2 or 3 years before I could play through songs.
It's not bad. Yeah.
I'm 58. I've been playing guitar for 48 years. It's like a long, long journey.
I can't imagine what those calluses are right now. From those years of playing. Now, the band formed, the demo's excellent, playing some of the scene stuff, some of the covers. Fortunately, the Battle of the Bands things, people weren't ready, their kids are going to like it though.
It was like a joke, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So how do you reflect on like writing the band's earliest material?
So, like I wrote the first like song ever, and the lyrics, like I'm not good with lyrics. It's just like I couldn't do it after that. I don't even remember if we have it anymore. So Matt like inspired me to like write songs, and he put words to it. Like we had like a brother relationship with music. Like I'd skip high school because he was a year older, go to his house and write songs. That's like the demo, basically.
You were saying the first song you wrote is like kind of in the vault.
I don't know where it is. It's like almost like a Remember Tomorrow kind of tune. Like I don't know. I have no copy of it. I wasn't good at archiving stuff. Matt was.
Yeah, with the whole like tape trading was huge, right? That was like the whole thing. Yeah. And like recording demos through that.
We'd buy one album and we'd all tape it. Then our demos, like we sent it to Mark from Jack Panzer. He helped us a lot too.
I believe he helped you get signed, right?
To Asford, yes.
And before we get to that, do you remember like the first recorded song or like the first song you guys wrote that ended up on a record? Maybe I know that's
Wielding Iron Fists, maybe.
Cool.
On Freedom's Rise.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It's a very raw song, so I can see why.
It's got an interesting chorus, man. Like I think I was when I was in my 20s, I think I probably was a better songwriter than I am now.
You think so?
I think so. Though our new stuff is pretty damn good.
Yeah, and that's something I'm really, really excited to get into because it has been a long wait, and I cannot wait to be alive when you guys release a record.
I hope we're all alive when it comes out.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned Mark from Jag Panzer. How did you meet him?
Matt. So Matt was basically like we're talking about writing letters back and forth, and we sent him a demo and he loved it and he helped us, and so did Christian Lowe from Savage Grace.
Oh, cool. So how exactly did he help you? Did he just like send a letter to the label and he's like, you got to check these guys out?
Their EP was on Ironworks, and then
yep.
What I think is a masterpiece is Ample Destruction.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, it's one of my favorite metal albums ever. And he said you're not going to make money, but he'll get whatever 5,000-6,000 copies out, and it like just to be signed to a company, like it was like amazing. And we did this obviously with Mark and Chris, but we did it by ourselves, man. Matt was in charge of a lot of that stuff, man. He wrote a lot. He wrote back to everyone that ever wrote to the like the fan mail. Every single letter he would respond to.
That's awesome. And you're talking about like kind of being self-managed there, and you guys were so young too, and you're managing a band. Like, what was that like?
I mean, I was fresh out of high school when
I
was in college. We were green, we didn't understand stuff. We couldn't afford lawyers, so we signed a lot of our rights away. But we never. My parents were immigrants. My cousin who played, we didn't have money to pay a lawyer to do stuff, so we tried to make heads and tails. And luckily, we own Freedom Drives. That's the only one we own.
Really?
Yes.
That's so interesting because that's the only one not on streaming.
We're long overdue to get that out, reissue it. I think it's been bootlegged quite a few times.
Yeah, because I guess I assumed you guys owned the last two and not the first one, but it's the other way around.
Absolutely not.
Is there any progress in obtaining those, or is it just not even possible with?
I mean, I think Metal Blade reissued it a couple years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah, true.
So vinyl, CDs, I
Uh-huh.
have like one copy of each. Like I think we can't control what they do with that.
Hmm. Have you talked to Brian about?
I haven't spoken to Brian in a long time, like probably since the '80s.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, since the next two records.
It ran out.
Um,
I mean, we got offered a deal after Master Control, and Matt decided he didn't want to do it anymore. So I didn't want to do it without him. So we broke up.
I feel like that's when bands start to drop off, when it's like they're just forcing out music just to do it, and there's no real chemistry anymore. And one of my favorite metal records, and I definitely want to get into it, but in terms of the first album, how do you recall like that writing and recording process? Freedom, it's your first record.
Exactly.
I know, I believe you recorded at two separate studios.
We did an EP first.
Yeah, so how'd that work?
Well, we were going to do an EP like Jag Panzer, and then we got the Black Dragon deal. They wanted a full album, so they gave us a little bit of money. We went back in and recorded like 4 more songs. And I can hear the difference in like the songs that we did after. But keep in mind, the engineers and the studios around here were not ready for that kind of stuff. It was tough to get the sounds that we were looking for.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting because when I learned about that and I re-listened to it, and I couldn't hear. I was trying to find, okay, what songs were on the first session and the other session. I assumed I thought maybe it would be like a A-side, B-side kind of deal, but it seems like they're all mixed.
In there, it was the 4 songs were the demo songs.
Yep.
Maybe Legionnaire. I can't remember. Like, my memory doesn't work so well after being this age, but like I think it was Legionnaire with the 4 songs on the demo.
That's so interesting. Like doing 2 studios, being so young, self-managing, getting that out.
And not knowing, understanding the studio. I mean, we did the demo, but we didn't know all that equipment was. We didn't understand that stuff,
And even the engineers don't know.
No,
On top of that.
Not metal.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you make that leap to Metal Blade? What was that like being in touch with Brian?
Fate's Warning.
Fate's Warning, yeah. As we circle back here,
Jim helped us get that deal.
So he was already signed.
They were signed,
and
we used to hang out together, support each other's band, and we loved them. I mean, that first album's amazing. We
excellent.
Hang out with them and drink beer in New Haven, and they helped us. So I'm thankful for all the help we got.
Yeah. So what's the back in the day, what was that like being signed to Metal Blade? Like, what was that process? Did they fly you out to LA?
Matt and I went and did like interviews, but it was all basically our own dime. Like we recorded here, but there was really no money involved to go out there, come back. So everything was done kind of here. And they had an office in New York too. We did a lot of promo and stuff.
So it was, you would just go to like the New York office?
Pretty much. There was like a hub in Connecticut. Mike Piero ran it, and he would help us with, little promo stuff and whatever they could do,
Yeah, cool. So what was that like being on Metal Blade?
It felt amazing to be on a label that, Slayer was on.
Yeah.
Turning Attacker. My dear friend Mike Sabatini.
Who's friend of the show?
Those guys are amazing. They're such
excellent.
What a great band.
Killer at just want to say real quick, at Hell's Heroes, I got to see some of the footage of them playing. Excellent.
We had to leave, and I was bummed because they're brothers, Mike is like a dear friend, and I wish I could have stayed more, but we had to come back and go to Tulsa next week.
Yeah. But, again, a great power metal band as well. That's a tour I would kill to see. The two of you guys.
We talked about maybe going to Italy together, which would be fantastic.
That would be so great. And I feel like, Fate's War, there's so many power metal. I feel like the touring cycle now with bands is like everyone just tours together, especially those thrash bands too.
This area was like the power metal, like Attacker. Like I could, Fate's a little more prog, but they had some power metal Obsession, that was a big thing going on here, man. We were all so into that style, you know.
Yeah, I feel like even, you go way south in Florida, you got like Savatage, you got, I think, Dream Theaters from around here,
We opened
kind
up
of.
Sabotage twice, and it was mine. Like Power of the Night.
Oh,
Oh, like watching him play guitar was amazing.
that's insane. There's rumors that they're gonna like start touring again
Yes,
and would give an arm and a leg. Truly
without
would.
John though, right? John is like not super healthy, so
I don't know. I know his health is not doing so well, and it's been, going on for a while. But I would kill to see them. I never got the chance to in my lifetime. So,
the two times we opened up for them, I was just mesmerized watching Chris. I'm like, I need to get that good. Like,
yeah,
I get that good. And they treated us so nice. Like they were so nice to us, you know.
they're all great guys.
John was amazing, you know. Like John, super cool.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And hopefully we'll get to see them again. I don't know how that's going to look. I'm not sure if it's even going to happen,
I think it
but
will, and I'm sure it'll be pro. You know, they're not going to put something out half-assed.
the last record was absolutely fantastic. So I have all the faith. Now I do want to touch on Burn to My Touch. Um, Amazing record. I want to I clarify something here. I read some things. People are saying it's like all very lyrically based on Stephen King's works.
Not at all.
Not at all, because I've seen that floating around.
Matt didn't read Stephen King stuff. That was all out of his head.
That's so funny.
That was brilliant, man. He was a genius. Everything he did, he did. He was a true artist. Whatever he put his hands on, he did it. Like, you know, but no Stephen King. Matt didn't read that stuff.
Yeah, because people saying, transgressors like Dead Zone,
At all. I love
Birds of Prey's Dark Tower.
No, man, not at all. Like Matt, like I told Matt, did not read that stuff, man.
That's so interesting. I saw this like big Reddit post with a bunch of upvotes in the comments like, yeah, man, I've been thinking that. So yeah, I just wanted to put that to rest.
Matt and I were as close as to like we were brothers. I don't think he even ever watched a Stephen King. Maybe Carrie. I don't think he ever even watched a Stephen King movie.
That's so funny. Well, there we go. Clarified. So I assume you got a way bigger budget on this release. Do you remember what exactly you got?
For the numbers, but
Yeah.
it wasn't what you think it would be, but we did the best we could with what we had. You know,
Yeah.
our parents were so supportive. They would chip in once in a while. You know, it was like if I said maybe 7 or 10 grand, I can't even remember.
That tracks for like that time, but it's like I can't imagine, because it's like you're playing this loud music, your parents like, if you're happy, you're happy. I don't get what it is. But then to get signed to like a major label.
They floated us whenever we were short. They helped us as much as possible. Every person in the band's parents were so they just supported, and they probably hated listening to the stuff, because they weren't.
Yeah.
But they helped us. I think they made up the difference of whatever we got.
So was this record written fresh after the debut, or were there songs and riffs you brought over from back in the like?
Some of the songs were written before. Like there were like Matt and I used to write all the time. He would give me cassettes of his bass playing, and I put guitar parts. We were constantly writing.
Do you remember what songs specifically maybe were from back, or was it just all kind of?
Maybe Legend might have been like left over from those. That's one. I'm trying to think what else. Maybe Birds of Prey.
Okay.
Like I'm trying. It's going back so far. I'm trying to remember all this stuff.
I'm just curious, because I always find that interesting when bands put out a record like they're sophomore. And there's maybe a couple songs that were supposed to be on the debut, but they end up being on the next record. And that happens with a lot of bands with their first two albums.
I think we had some of the riffs, but Matt and I were always changing stuff. We were always, it's funny because, we were talking one day and whatever I wrote, I gave to him and I'm like, is this cool? He's like, yes. Like I always needed his like stamp of approval. And then later on, he told me, he's like, I just liked it. I never like analyzed it. I'm like, really? Because I thought you like would say, oh, this sucks. But he never said that. I always thought he like, because we wrote a ton of stuff. Some of the stuff didn't make it, but it was like he just like trusted me to write, whatever I wrote. Same thing. He'd write stuff, and I put guitar stuff to it.
Yeah, so that was pretty much like the creative chemistry between you guys, and was that throughout all three records? Yeah.
Well, Paul joined the band afterwards, and he
Mm-hmm.
helped us a lot. And Joe, my favorite singer in the world, Joe Comeau. That album had a little different process because Paul joined, a little different style. Him and Joe wrote some songs, and Matt and I. Some of my favorite songs are what Matt and I did on Master Control.
My favorite record from the band, and that's something I really want to, I'm looking forward to diving into. Master Control. Also, one of the coolest cover arts. Just want to say that. The color scheme, the mech guy.
My son he's going to be 14. Like, they kind of laugh at those graphics now because it's like outdated for them, That was painted, and if you really look closely at the album, I think I have it here. Let me show you something. There's a crease right going down right here.
Yeah.
It wasn't big enough, and they fixed it. They added stuff to it. Like they right around here, they somehow they had an artist make it work, but you can see the crease. But I guess it is kind of like my son said this. He said it looked like something in a video game, and I don't know that world. My father bought me an Atari thing. I played it for 15 minutes, and that was it. It's like I'm bored. Let me play guitar.
Yeah, I thought it was a Warhammer reference, and then I saw the year it was out, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
I don't even know what Warhammer is.
Yeah. It's this like game, this like tabletop game with like mechs and stuff, like mech suits. There's Bolt Thrower is really inspired by it, and a lot of their album art is like that, like mechs with giant guns and stuff. So I saw that, I'm like, must be connected, but
no, not at all. I mean, Matt and I. A lot of these songs were written after watching The Odd Couple, Honeymooners, and Star Trek. I mean, that's we didn't do that. Matt loved playing chess.
Yeah.
Intelligence level was like beyond what most people. So, like Warhammer. I don't even know what Warhammer is. I'll have to ask my kid.
Yeah, well, it's a great cover, and it's funny because like you're saying it is like. I think it is dated, but in the best way possible. Because I know artists now who are trying to recreate that look of like that painted, like sci-fi, and it's just such an awesome cover.
The theme of this album was computers, technology taking over, which basically happened.
Yeah.
So, like originally, I think, I don't know if you remember the Challenger, the space shuttle. Blew up and that we were going to use that as a cover, but we decided not to because it was offensive. People died.
The picture.
Yes. But it was just like we kind of saw technology coming in and taking over human beings. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, the guy running everything behind the curtain. And that was like a lot of the theme of what was going on here.
Yeah, and we're seeing that right now, honestly, more than ever with AI, with image generation, it's crazy. And there's like pretty much like robots like Alexas you can talk to now that are AIs.
You don't have to drive your own car anymore. You know what I mean? It's definitely gotten to that point.
So that album does foreshadow where we are now, which is kind of funny. Just no mechs yet. I love this record because the change in sound is really welcomed, and I love it so much. The band gets a lot heavier. Was this a conscious decision or like a natural evolution?
I think an evolution. Like we wanted to go in because we were fans of Slayer and like all the thrash stuff. We loved Death, all that's like the whole San Fran thing. It was like but we stayed. I think like it's whatever you want to call it, power metal. We got caught in the middle of that where thrash took over, which we weren't heavy enough, whatever you want to say, but it's got its own sound. It's just like something Matt, Paul, Joe, my cousin Frank, we found ourselves. I think we basically found our sound on that album.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so funny you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of the bands I talk to, like Attacker, for example,
Right.
that we were talking about, have the same issue where thrash was so big at the time,
Yeah,
you know?
we stayed true to ourselves. We didn't change with the times, and unfortunately, I always thought with this album, I thought if marketed correctly, if there were 3 million Iron Maiden fans, like 500,000 of them would have liked this, but it never got to them.
Yeah, like if it came out in like 76,
I would have
would
been like
have
12 years old. I don't think I got that well.
Yeah, yeah, but just to compare it to like a lot of the British new wave stuff, which is very like power metal esque. Now,
100%.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Now you guys toured that record with Candlemass and Anvil,
That's
right?
right. Anvil,
Yeah,
yes. I mean, we opened up for a lot of bands in New York at Lamore's. Raven, boy, love the nicest guys in the world. They were amazing.
yeah.
We did it. We did an Anvil tour, and we should have been dead. We toured in like a '72 motorhome with a trailer. I mean, it broke down every single day. We got through it though, and those guys were awesome. Great band.
Yeah, Lips is very funny.
They're amazing. Such nice. And Rob Reiner, like amazing.
Yeah.
The drums, like watching him every night. I used to tell my cousin, "Why can't you play like him, man?" But they treated us very. They treated us. We were younger than them, and they were good to us.
Yeah, so what was that like? Kind of just to elaborate on that a little bit, because like Candlemass, you guys toured with too, which
Yeah,
what an amazing tour that must have been.
we became
So, uh-huh.
good friends on that tour, and
Yeah.
Messiah was my buddy. We like those guys turned us on to drinking in the morning, and they were shocked that we had day jobs because, like, I guess the Swedish government compensated them for being artists. Like, no, we have to work. No one supports us here. But
Yeah.
a lot of fun, and watching them every night was it's such a good band.
Yeah. I was lucky to see him last year and just so excellent. So excellent. They're putting out a new record, I'm pretty sure. Um
Not with Messiah.
their last one?
No, I know they. I saw something about like him playing with them, like maybe for a one-off or something.
Yeah, yeah, Messiah. Yeah, yeah. So I'm really excited to see their new stuff. But that's so cool because I feel like power metal does their like kind of traditional doom metal,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it
for
has
sure.
like this bit of like vocally, it has a little bit of like power metal to it and like how theatrical it is. Where doom metal's always been very like it's just kind of talking, singing,
You
you
can
know?
hear like as much as I love Sabbath, you don't really hear much of it on our albums. You can hear the Sabbath influence on that on Candlemass. It's like where like I didn't write like that, and I love both. Ozzy Dio's like one of my favorite singers. Like I love that because I saw Mob Rules tour, and I was blown. Like I fell in love with Dio's voice. It's the first time I'd ever seen him.
What era of Sabbath do you prefer?
If you had a gun to my head, I would tell you to pull the trigger because I love Ozzy. But
It's okay to say Dio.
no, I mean, like, listen, we all know who's a better singer. Dio is one of the greatest singers in music, but I can't, like the early those albums with Ozzy are amazing, and they kind of changed a little bit, and I accepted it. A lot of people are like, it's all about Ozzy, but I loved it when I saw it live. It was Dio. I've seen Dio like 5 or 6 times. He was never flat or sharp. His voice was always. I saw him right before he died with Heaven and Hell, and I was like, probably had cancer in the stomach, and he's fucking singing perfect.
Yeah, like he's such a legend. And that Dehumanizer record from Sabbath, I think is one of the most underrated. And vocally, he's insane on that one.
It never got like pushed out there. I mean, I guess it was like later, but like you're right, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, it came out in the No, that's not a 90s album, I don't think. It came out between like the Tony Martin stuff. I know that. So it was kind of lost in that.
Great too, man. All that
Yeah.
stuff. I always like. I always say the two riff masters. People would say like Hatfield. I'm going to go with Mark Briotti and Iommi. Mark is
Yeah.
I've never been nervous on stage. And last year in Wisconsin, he was standing in front of us, and I'm like, oh shit, I got to play in front of the one of the greatest metal songwriters on the planet.
So underrated, very underrated.
They are.
Yeah.
All their albums are like fantastic, regardless of who's playing guitar in there. Like Mark he's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, there wasn't too big of a scene in Colorado at the time, but
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean,
yeah.
I never got to play there, but I talked to Mark. I'm like, it's like he was like, it was a bucket list to see Liege in Wisconsin. I said, my bucket list is to play with you. Ends up we're playing with him in New York in August.
That's awesome. That's really great.
I'm excited.
Yeah, again, like seeing if there was a tour with, the two Attacker, Jag Panzer, Liege Lord, that would be
I will gladly go on before both those bands because
yeah.
I love them. Like those are like, we're like family. You know what I mean? We're still doing that sound. Like that 80s. We like when someone asked me like, did you modernize the sound? We're like, no, we didn't change our tunings. It's the new stuff it sounds like it should have come out after this.
And that's really awesome, man. And, I definitely want to get into that record. Now, I think for a couple of years you've been talking about this album, right?
It's been probably 12 years.
12 years.
It's been a long time. It's like we all lived in the same town when we did Master Control. Joe moved here, and it was easy to write and get together. Now everybody's like scattered. Joe's in Pittsburgh. Like you can't get together in the studio and write. So, and I'm like not good with like technology. I'll send like a riff to Danny, our other guitar player, who's like I think like him and Joe DiBiase, Frank, they helped save the band. They brought us back to life.
I just want to say the lineup is fantastic. I saw some of the footage of like some of the recent shows and just killer, just so killer.
I love those guys. If I'm going to war, I feel like I'm going to win with those guys. Joe, it's bizarre because when Matt passed away, something came over me to reach out to Joe. And through mutual friends, I got in contact with him. And it's so good reconnecting with him because he's one of the funniest human beings like I love hanging out with him again,
Yeah.
He's probably one of the best bass players out there. All those are my favorite Fates albums, with Joe on there.
I heard you say somewhere that, if you're playing and you're just looking forward, it feels like Matt's still there. Like it's such a tight lineup and you can totally hear it in the footage.
He said something to me like when he started playing, like early Matt is very Steve Harris-y, Geddy Lee. And then later Matt started to focus on the song and not be so busy. And he caught that. And he does his own version of that. And it's amazing. It's just like, it makes me feel like I have a safety net underneath me when I'm playing guitar.
Now, the band broke up in the 90s, obviously, because of what you said. And I also want to add, like, I assume there was a little bit of burnout from all the touring
and absolute, like, no money.
Yeah.
Our parents were going to Western Union on tour. We had no tour support. It was, basically it was Matt's decision. He called me. And I never felt like I could do Liege Lord without Matt. You know what I mean? It just felt like my loyalty was to him.
2012, you guys got back together. I believe that's the year.
Yes.
Now, and of course the festival, it's like, oh my God, I have fans singing my songs. No one forgot.
I always thank Oliver for keeping true. I say, Manolis, we got back together because of you. I hadn't played metal for so long. I got in a helmet, whatever you want to call that, new metal, or, in 2002, I played with a band called Gandhi, which was Page Hamilton's post-helmet band. And, I hadn't done that stuff. It was like, and that's a different type of metal. There's like not shred stuff. And like, that was the first time I started playing heavy stuff again. So we started putting this band back together. I call it like training camp. I just relearned my 20-something-year-old riffs with like arthritis in my fingers.
Yeah. So, Keep It True, which pretty much revived the band. How do you remember being on stage for that show? What was that feeling like being in Liege Lord again after all these years?
It was one of the greatest feelings in the world. And we went on before Possessed. I got off the stage and
It's awesome.
Jeff was like, you know, that guitar player, you guys are fucking, he complimented me. I'm like, dude, I love your fucking music. It was so nice. And he was sweet. His dad was with him. Like, it was just a great vibe. People really, they get us in Europe. You know, I don't know if I'm like, I think power metal is probably more appreciated in Europe.
For sure. Definitely. Definitely. Like Manowar was like mainly in Europe, I feel, in terms of touring.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, was there any, just out of curiosity, was there any pressure, like especially following Possessed, of like, oh shit, getting a little nervous before?
We went on before that.
Oh, before. Okay. So it was kind of the relief after, and then you get to see Possessed.
We've done it twice. We did it at Hell's Heroes a couple of years ago, and Van was busy, Matt was going through chemo, so we put a pretty good band together. But like, who wants to go on like after Possessed? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I can't imagine. I'm glad you cleared that up because, like, I can't imagine, like, after all these years, finally getting the band back together. Now you have to follow fucking, like, the first death metal band ever. Like,
and there were some great bands. Oliver puts some of the greatest lineups together. We just
yeah,
last year. He loved Matt. He did that for Matt. He reached out to us, and he was heartbroken when Matt passed away because he considered Matt a friend, as I do Oliver. They're our friends.
You guys formed in 2012. So when do you remember talk starting of this record? Was it right when the band reformed?
Joe called us in 2000 to go play Wacken, and Matt told me, he's like, I'll do it. And then he's like, he didn't feel right. And Joe was like, you said you would do it. I said, I can't play without Matt. I'm sorry. So he put a lineup together, and they were great. It had our buddy Sebastian, who played in Overkill and Anvil, who passed away. A dear friend, another brother. So we finally got it together, and I waited for Matt to say yes. And once Matt said yes, and Joe called Paul Nelson, he called my cousin Frank, tried to put the original band together. But those guys had other things going on. Paul was playing with Johnny Winter, and it was like going to play those songs it was like holy shit, this stuff is fast. Like I haven't played this fast in a while. It was a great feeling. It felt good.
That's awesome. And you've hyped up this record quite a lot, and you're saying it's the proper follow-up to Master.
It is. There's some different stuff. I think it's the heaviest stuff we've ever done. If you follow like on YouTube, the two songs we've been playing, a lot faster. There's definitely a little more thrash involved, heavy double bass. And we got Frank Gilchrist, who's like the most amazing drummer on the planet, who's a riot.
Yeah. Excellent. And another great power metal band.
I saw the Fire Down Under shows.
Oh, that's awesome.
Was amazing. I had a fake ID. My cousin got his license. We used to go. I saw Rep Forrester. I saw all those early Riot shows, and they were so good, and they're amazing now.
Riot 5's killer. Like I'd love to see them. No one ever comes to Boston in terms of metal, but
I don't think we since the 80s. I don't think we've been to Massachusetts.
Seriously, has it been that long?
I mean, I've been there with Helmet. We played like a couple places by. That was a fun lineup. It was Johnny Tempesta, who's in the Cult. That was in White Zombie, Rob Zombie, Testament, Exist.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You had a blast, and that's the last time I played in Boston.
You remember where you played specifically?
Avalon. Axis. We're talking about 2005, maybe.
Yeah, it might be a Dunkin' Donuts now, unfortunately. Yeah, as every club here turned into.
And I've never been one of my friends, Matt, lives up there. I've never been to Fenway, and I'm a Yankee fan, but I have to go to Fenway because it's like one of the last real ballparks.
Yeah, it's great. You get to see people fight. That's where you get the truest Bostonians. Uh,
New Yorkers can be a little worse than that, man.
yeah, I believe it. But as someone who lives here, the testosterone in that stadium sometimes.
I'm always rooting against Boston, but I love some of the players that were on, like obviously Johnny Damon, like Pedroia. Those are like, I can't hate those guys, but I did love beating the shit out of them. And then you kicked our ass too. You guys beat like Mariano Rivera, which is like the impossible,
If you're a Patriots fan, you can't talk shit about the Giants, I don't think.
I don't like the Patriots. I'm not as big as a football fan as I used to be as a Pittsburgh Steeler guy. So now I just root for like the New York teams, but I guess they suck. New York hasn't had a championship with anything. The Rangers, the Yankees. My son's into baseball now. It was heartbreaking watching the Dodgers kick their ass.
Yeah, and the New York Giants. It's rough. It's really rough right now.
It really is. New York sports is like, I mean, listen, the Yankees got to the World Series, but like we haven't had like a championship since 2009, I think was the last time. It's a long time in New York.
I think it was 2009. Yeah, the ego here is so unbelievable because the Bruins, the Pats,
Celtics.
Yeah, Celtics too. It's it's such a sports city. It's such a sports city. It's a little overwhelming sometimes because
you have one of like the North End.
Yeah,
I love that. Like I've lived for that.
Yeah. It's and I love Southie. I love all the shitty parts too, but the thing is, like, there's no metal scene. There's no metal scene. It died with the clubs, unfortunately. There's a few cover bands that go around. Worcester has a great scene. I will say that Ralph's Rock Diner. They had a I forget who it was. Someone toured there recently, but a ton of metal bands go through there. Ralph's Rock Diner in Worcester.
I've never been there. We used to play the Channel. Do you remember the Channel?
Yeah, that's gone. It's before my time, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, you could be my son, probably. We used to play the Channel a lot.
I've only heard the stories. There's the Rat Skeller, I believe. That was another one.
It just always on tour do the Channel. Like I don't remember like other places.
Now it's I think an old one that's still here is Paradise Rock Club.
Paradise, we played Paradise.
Yeah, Paradise. You played Paradise. Do you remember who? With who?
I can't remember if it was Anvil. It might have been Candlemass. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I always went to Matt for the memory because my long-term memory didn't work as well as his. Like he would remember stuff. I could call him and say, and also he documented everything. Matt wrote stuff down all the time.
I feel like with early band life, it's so tunnel visioned, and then you grow up, and then you get older, and it's like wait, what happened?
It's part of your past.
What did we do?
To remember everything that took place. But he was good on tour, man. He had a little book, and he wrote stuff down. His wife is like my sister, and we have to find this. Matt has a lot of stuff that he saved. He was really good at archiving stuff, so I got to get into it.
Yeah, do you still have that book, or is it in the vault? Is it somewhere?
It's probably in his house in Milford.
Connecticut?
Stratford.
Yes, okay.
Joe's in Milford. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I just want to say it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm going to have to make the trip down to Connecticut and see you guys.
Come to the New York Fest in August.
When is that? It's in
August. That's with Jag Panzer.
Yeah, that would be fucking sweet. I've had Mark on the podcast as well. That would be really great to meet him, like, properly.
Because in Tulsa, somehow we didn't connect. Because I love talking to him he's a huge pizza guy. And,
oh, is he?
Mother made better, I had an Italian mother making better pizza in an electric oven than most of these places give you now. So I'm hoping to find, like, eat some pizza with Mark. Jag Panzer, us, Blood Feast, Ruthless, Destructor, Overlord. That's August 31st.
To see Overlord as well would be excellent. That's a killer lineup. August 31st.
Well, yeah, the whole the festival's like all weekend.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, well, as we wrap up here, that's a great thing to plug. Is there anything else, anything in the future that fans could look forward to? I know we got this new album on
We'll
the
get it
way.
out. We'll get it out. And, thank you for taking time with me, to appreciate, I love talking about Matt, and I feel like he's with me as long as I keep playing this. Matt's, he's with us, you know what I mean? And I'm going to keep his memory and spirit alive as long as I can with this band.
Well, I love learning about Matt, and I love learning about the band history and you, and there's a whole new generation of metalheads out there
Yes.
that were born, after the band broke up, pretty much.
Which is
So,
cool to meet 20-year-olds that like sing our songs. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, like amazing. It just feels so good to give people something good. Like we played, I'll tell you one more thing. We played in front of Exhorter at in Madison. They were like one of the best bands I've ever seen, ever. Like they were just so good. And Kyle was like, I've heard your name. I've never heard your music. And he was on the stage fucking going bananas. Like so cool. So cool to like meet people. This is like a community. And I've never seen as much love in it like I do in the metal community.
yeah, it's such a tight scene, and yeah, more of a community as a whole. Like globally, it's really great, and even generational. You go to shows from bands that started in like '82, and there's such a massive age range there, and it's so reassuring to be like, yeah, this is here to stay. It's not like when you go see Clapton and it's all just.
This is how the world should work. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, here's another great band, Satan. How fucking
Yes.
great. What a
Yes.
what a great bunch of guys, man. So we played with them last week, and I love those guys. They're like a big influence.
Yeah. Are there any newer metal bands you're into right now? Because I ask a lot of like people who, a lot of band members, and a lot of them just stick with the old stuff, which I respect. There's so much of it.
But I got to tell you something. I'm looking forward to the new Nevermore.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love Jeff
That's,
Loomis is
yeah.
the greatest player, and Van is like I love Van's a dear friend. We text every day, and he played with us, and I love him. He'll always be in my heart.
Nevermore's great. It's been great talking to you. I'm gonna have to make the trip out to New York. I missed Whiplash and Hyrax there. They did they played with Sodom.
Hyrax was in New York.
They were in New York with Whiplash, and they opened for Sodom, and I couldn't make it. Which is like fuck.
I don't go out much. I work. I've got kids, but like I love Hyrax. He's such a badass, man. I love. He's like one of the great frontmans out there.
Yeah, yeah, and such a great story too, and especially in that Bay Area scene, really, really unique metal. I'd kill to see them. I do comedy, so I'm on the road a lot, so it's hard to like, be like
If you ever come down to stand, there's a comedy club here. Like a lot of people.
Stress Factory.
It might be a lot. It's like a chain. My wife took me to see a couple. We saw Rappaport. We saw someone
Nice.
else. Is it Lap? I don't know.
There's Stress Factory in Hartford. I mean to make my way down there for comedy. I mainly do like Boston, Worcester, Maine, New Hampshire.
Like what kind of comedy? Give me an idea.
Like what do you mean? Like stand up?
Like Carlin or like who
I like a lot of I like a lot of like older style stuff. Like Bill Hicks is my favorite. I'm not sure if you know Hicks, but like that.
I know Rodney Dangerfield, like Red Fox, and like I know that early stuff.
Yeah, well, I really love the earlier style of comedy. That's like that '80s, early '90s stuff where it's like very joke structure.
'70s.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then there's like Lenny Bruce '60s stuff. It's there's a lot of great comedy to pull from, and there's a lot of good stuff coming out today. But yeah, I love those. I collect vinyl too, and I have all those like old Carlin and Rodney Dangerfield stuff.
You have stuff online I can check out?
Yeah, I'll send you a tape. Yeah, I'll send you a tape after this. Maybe I can open for you guys. I've done that before. I've opened for metal bands.
Listen, I'm a comedy routine on the stage, so I welcome laughter. Laughter is the greatest thing in the world.
It's fun, man. It's fun, like doing the road and like doing gigs. You know, it's a lot harder than like it looks. It's really degrading sometimes because like you'll be a good payment, but you'll do like bar shows,
Some
and
people are
it's like
tough,
the
man. The comedy
worst.
shows are like I've seen people like I get it, you're gonna get heckled, but like have some class, man. You know what I mean? Like you got to deal with some pains in the asses in the audience, right?
Yeah, yeah, especially in Worcester, there's a lot of really rough hecklers, you know, where it's like just people so unbelievably drunk and they're like just screaming at you, and some of the things they're saying aren't even audible.
It's listen, I'm speaking. I'm not drunk, but I'm having an afternoon beer with you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm having some I'm saving the beer for later. An absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Cheers.
I'm cheers. I'm Brandon Battick, and this is Disturbing the Priest.